Hello.
Hi.
It's been a while.
We've been busy.
We haven't really done a reviews or anything. Like our last video was almost 2 weeks ago when we unboxed the Jotnar edition for God of War.
That's a part of the reason we've been busy.
Yes, that's part of the reason we've been busy. But of course, for those of you who are also in the U.S., we had Thanksgiving just the other day. So, holidays and stuff have begun. But welcome back, everybody. My name is Carly.
Jason.
And, we're here once again to talk about our favorite things, the things that we enjoy. And if you like some of the same stuff that we do, please consider giving this video a like or even subscribing to our channel, because maybe you agree with us. Maybe you don't agree with us. Maybe you just don't like anything we have to say, so now you just want to tell us on every video. Doesn't matter. Subscribe to our channel. All right, so today, though, we wanted to talk about Andor. We have watched the whole season. The finale aired this recent Wednesday on Disney+. For those who don't know, Andor is set in the Star Wars universe. It's a prequel to Rogue One.
Yeah. And it's the story of the main character, or even co-lead of Rogue One, Cassian Andor. Mm-hmm. I will say this is one of my favorite things that I've watched this year.
Yes.
It is so good, and oddly enough, not enough people are talking about it. I would actually say more people are talking about the fact that people aren't talking about it than who are actually talking about it.
Yeah, this is very true.
But the show is just so good. It's the best Star Wars thing they've put out in a long time. And I really like Mandalorian.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't so much of a fan of Boba Fett. Obi-Wan was kind of a letdown for me.
Kenobi.
But, this was really good. I mean, you don't have to know Star Wars. You don't have to even be a Star Wars fan. It's just a solid show. Yeah, it requires no background knowledge of Star Wars. If you just like sci-fi and good storytelling,
intrigue, if you like Jason Bourne,
spy thrillers,
this show.
It was solid, and from beginning to end. Even though when this show was announced, I was like, "Why are we doing this?"
Me too.
We know why
we know where his story ends.
Yep, we even kind of know his past a little bit. Mm-hmm. And so I wasn't really feeling it.
But this was a world and lore building that I didn't know I wanted.
Yeah, and the trailers came out and they were really good. And I'm like, ooh, that looks good. And I watched it and I was like, oh, this is really good. And every time it ended, I'm like, man, it's over already?
Yes, every episode was cut perfectly.
At such a natural place.
That it just, you need it to come back for the next part.
And you just want the answers. You want them so bad. It tells the story in such a great way.
Which is interesting because a lot of shows these days struggle with long-form storytelling, so 10 one-hour episodes. Because it just dragged. Okay, 12 even. Because they tend to drag.
This didn't drag at all.
Was quite nearly perfect.
I mentioned after watching the first episode, because we had, I think just recently...
the first two dropped at the same time.
So the first two, yeah. So I think we had just recently wrapped up our review of The Lord of the Rings, which some of you might have stopped by for.
If you haven't,
The Rings of Power, which...
check out our channel.
We really enjoyed The Lord of the Rings.
It's a good fantasy show.
It is what it is, and it has its faults. Part of it is it's slow, and it doesn't really accomplish anything. And you will see a lot of criticism of that online. And I don't mind slow storytelling. In fact, that's kind of Tolkien's way. This, Andor, is the way to do slow storytelling.
It was slow, but it was a pace that kept... I don't know. Yes, it was kind of slow if you think about it.
Well, so if hitting on the story beats, so spoilers if you haven't seen it.
Oh yeah, and as always, all of our shows are always full spoilers. We cannot.
We're not very good at it.
We cannot do a non-spoiler conversation. So if you have not seen the show, especially if you have not seen the finale, do not watch our show until after you've seen those.
But I won't get like super heavy though. But if you think about it, Cassian gets into trouble, gets recruited, they blow up a base.
Steal some money?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Steal some money, gets thrown into prison, goes home for his mother's funeral. Mm-hmm. Like, that's not a lot of stuff.
But it's the in-betweens.
Well, and it's the tension. The tension is there every episode.
Yes.
The tension is so high, you just feel it. And
this is one of those edge of your seat. Even if you're not literally on the edge of your seat, your heart and your mind and just all of you is just like, what's going to happen?
Which is really impressive considering we know what happens to Andor.
We know the end of his story.
But it's everybody else. All the characters are so good. Mm-hmm. All of them are built out in such a great way. Mm-hmm. Because when we meet Cassian in Rogue One, he has a line, and I can't remember because it's been a while since I've seen the movie, but he says something to the effect of, "You don't know the things I've done for this rebellion." Which makes you think...
episode 1 with, he killed 2 guards.
Well, in Rogue One, though, it makes you think,
yeah,
oh, there's a darker side to war that even the good guys kind of have to play dirty.
Yeah.
And in this, for at least, I would say, the first maybe 4 episodes, you're like, the good guys are bad.
Oh, yeah. You feel for the Empire workers, like
yeah.
this ISB, the Internal Security Bureau, or something like that.
You're just like, man, you guys
you
are.
can understand why they think the rebels are bad people.
Yeah, but then they put the shoe on the other foot, and that was so good. You're like, man, these rebels might be bad, but the Empire is evil.
We're cheering.
So evil.
Yeah, because I start kind of rooting for Dedra and Cyril and what they're doing.
For a minute. For just a minute.
Yeah, those are Empire people. Because I'm like, what the rebels are doing here would scare anybody.
But then you see what the Empire's doing.
How far the Empire will go. Even to the point of recording the sound of anguished cries from children dying of an alien species
to torture
use
people
as an audible torture device.
Oh, man.
Children dying.
Yeah, and the fact that the guy, I think you said this when we watched it, the fact that the doctor or whatever could even say that without breaking a sweat. He
was kind of eccentric though too, that I'm like,
yeah.
You're something special.
Yeah. And it demonstrates all the grays
that come to any war.
That come to the war. Yeah, because you get to see the guy who's really trying to instigate it all, right? He's like, we need to wake everybody up. What's the best way to wake everybody up? Make their life suck. Mm-hmm. And you're like, wow, that's kind of dark and you're kind of a terrible person. And then you see, like, Saw has always been Saw. But, like, when his
sister died, his instability became even worse.
Yeah, so when you see him in Clone Wars, and then you see him in Rogue One, you're just like, you're not all together. You're not a good rebel. You're a
anti-hero.
A guerrilla warfare, an anti-hero, so to speak. But then, again, you see those sides and you're just like, man, you guys are kind of gross, kind of mucky. Mm-hmm. You're like, you don't like the things that the rebels are doing. Mm-hmm. And they keep showing that to you. You're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then but anytime they show you an Empire thing, you're just blown away by how evil these people are. Just thinking about the prison. Like, yes. You're just like, this is
whole prison thing.
Awful.
So the prison in and of itself actually isn't a bad idea. Put these people to work. Kind of keeps them out of trouble. If these had actually been, troublemakers. But Cassian was sentenced to 6 years for literally being in the wrong place at the wrong time. The work that they're having them do in and of itself, and they're actually well cared for.
Well cared for is a hard word.
They're treated a little unhuman, but they're fed, they're clean, and they have a sanitary working space.
But see, that's what it looks like on the surface.
Yes. So the next degree of that, though, is just the sheer inhumanity
It's
They're
if you
treated-
do well, you get flavor. If you don't do well, you get tortured.
Yes. So the idea of putting your inmates to work, that's actually not a bad idea. But
I think we do that with, like, if you think about our prisons, there's like the license plate prisons or whatever.
Like clean up,
or clean up highways or things like that. Yeah, so
and that's not a bad idea, but the Empire takes it to an evil degree, I suppose.
Yeah, they just go to the extreme.
Yes.
Oh man.
And then when we learn that at the end of someone's time, they're not actually being released, they're being recycled back to another place in the prison.
Oh yeah. Awful.
That they
Awful.
killed hundreds of men
just to keep it a secret.
Just to keep it quiet.
Yeah.
Except it wasn't kept quiet because everybody knew.
Yeah. and good lines, good dialogue, great characters.
Mm-hmm.
They kill the puppies. They they just every time you're like, I like this character. Well, that character's gonna die.
Yes.
And
there are some really good lines. One of my favorite lines, which I know I'm kind of skipping around here, but one of my favorite lines is a post-mortem line that Andor's mom says to him through somebody else because she died when he was gone, was, I love you more than anything you could do wrong. And I'm like, that is such a true thing for a parent to say. And I just, it was almost akin to me, what is love if not, or what is grief if not love persevering? Like those two, like those are great lines to have.
Yeah. That line needs to be immortalized somewhere. Like whoever wrote that line.
What is love if not grief? What is grief if not love persevering?
So good.
Anyway.
But there's a monologue in here where they ask, what is the name of that character?
Kino?
No,
Cyril, Dedra.
No.
Bix.
Nope.
The mom?
Nope. The old guy who's like kind of instigating. Luthen. As you can tell, she's good with names. I am not.
Sometimes I'm good with names.
But there's a character who asks Luthen, what are you giving to this cause?
Yeah, he's like, I've given, my job, like my security and like this is what the guy who's asking, right? He's like, I've given up time with my family. He's like, I want out. And then Luthen says,
well, so I mean, the guy who's asking has a good point. He's like, you've put me in an impossible situation where I'm either going to die or I'm going to be on the run. Mm-hmm. He's like, so for me, he's like, I've put my life in danger and stuff. He's like, but what do you give over? Mm-hmm. And granted, it ends with the very classic line of, I've given everything, which is what Luthen says. But the monologue he gives before the I give everything, he's like, basically, he's like, I've burned my goodness away. Mm-hmm. He's like, I've
become like them.
I've become what I hate and despise in order to tear down what I hate and despise. Mm-hmm. And at the end of it, I know I am gone and lost and forever forgotten. Like,
yeah,
and
he's
goes
basically like,
on.
I'm going to hell and no one's going to remember me.
Yeah. And he's like, and I'm okay with that because this has to end. Mm-hmm. And he's like, so what have I given? I've given everything. And I'm just such a good monologue.
The actual just peace of mind. He's like, I've given up even like from my soul to my brain to all of it.
He's like, I don't sleep well, but
yeah.
It's an amazing monologue. And even Cassian's mom, what's her name? Marva. So you get to see her hologram, and she kind of gives a nice little speech where she's like, this is kind of weird. I'm dead, but I get to, speak to you.
Imagine it.
And she's like, I know this is our tradition, but, here it is. And she talks about, being asleep. And
because they leave us alone. We do what they ask because then they leave us alone.
Yeah, and so it's like
what they ask.
Yeah, and it's like, so we capitulate here and there and everywhere. And then she's like, and we've done that because it brings us some peace of conscience, some sort of normalcy to our day because, like, kind of like you said, because they leave us alone. She's like, but not this time. They're not leaving. Mm-hmm. This is not ending. Mm-hmm. This is getting worse. And so she's like, I know it's wrong of me to say as a dead person to fight. She's like, but
it's easy for the dead to say fight.
Yeah, she's like, but you need to wake up.
Yeah. And then the stinking Empire guy comes in and tries to, like, he, like, pushes over B2, and I'm like, stop it.
Yeah, B2, the droid is adorable.
He's great.
So adorable.
I kind of love that they gave him a stutter. It just, it makes him a little bit more endearing, but also, you know, droids are never perfect, and yet almost every droid we ever have is, you know,
it's so
can
good.
talk and blah blah blah, and they're just, you know, kind of the perfect paragon of what their specific type of droid is supposed to be. And, you know, he kind of wasn't. He was a little bit slow, and you know, he stuttered, but he cared in a way that I feel like not many other droids do.
So, I mean, at least for me, this show is near perfection.
Yes, this is like a 9.9 for me.
Yeah, so I will say I have a few gripes. One of my gripes is Cassian in one scene will seem almost...
Ninja.
Well, not... Yeah, ninja. But, like, almost clairvoyant. Like, he is just brilliantly smart. Mm-hmm. And then in another scene, and they're...
Like, he's coming back to
there's
his
very
mom's funeral,
few... Yeah, it's just like...
And he's not even bothered to disguise himself.
Right. I'm like, you should know better than... Like, I know you're good, which he gets in and out just fine. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, come on, this is a stupid decision. A stupid decision.
He almost got caught.
He almost did, which I think was the point, right? It's like, okay, you're good, but you will get caught eventually. Mm-hmm. But again, like, it's like, on some scenes, you are so smart. Like, this is how people think. This is how you get under their skin. This is how you do... Yeah.
The way he just shot the guy who was like, you know, we could just take this money and go. Split it like 2 ways, right?
Immediately, because, like, almost not even giving the audience a time to react, because he shoots him and we're like, yep, that's exactly what you should have done, because it would have, like...
But my brain had not gotten there yet.
Right, because he already did, which makes him seem smart, right? Yeah. So he had already arrived there about the same time the audience does, which makes him seem smart. But then other times, like going home for his mother's funeral, it's like, man, what a dumb... What are you doing?
You could have at least dyed your hair blonde or something, you dumb nut.
Right. And so... You get it on one hand, you know, it's emotional, it's his last tie, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But, so that was one of my gripes. Not a big gripe, small gripe, because the show is still really good.
It's very similar to my gripe with video games, if it's like, you're telling me this guy can scale a wall that's 200 feet tall, but can't break through a barrier of sticks?
Right, and so that's the gripe here, is that if he did everything smart, there would be no conflict. Mm-hmm. So you kind of have to have him make some dumb decisions because there has to be conflict. So I'm okay with it. Yeah. And it wasn't a lot. It wasn't like he was Sherlock Holmes, but he forgot how to do math. Yeah. Like they were small little things, not barely noticeable, but it did bug me a little bit. I had another small gripe. Like, this is how hard it is for me to come up with like things I didn't like about the show.
Yeah.
I had something else. What didn't you like about the show? I had something else I didn't like. Wow, I can't believe...
Honestly, I don't know if there was much... There may have been, like, in an episode, I'd be like, well, that was kind of dumb. But it wasn't a whole show kind of thing. It was just in that episode. So I can't even complain about it because it didn't really impact the show.
Yeah, I can't even think of it. That's probably my one gripe, which, again... I'm nitpicking on a show that is near perfect.
Yes, if we have to struggle this hard
to think of something, yeah, it's a great show. I like the way they did the intro, how it builds, how they add elements every time.
And that was fun. So the opening, because it shows you, you know, the curve of a planet, which I'm assuming is probably either Ferrix or where he's from. I can't remember what his home planet is called.
I'm assuming it's just Ferrix.
And then, you know, it curves up and it actually turns into kind of the logo of what Andor is. And actually, the Andor logo itself
is really good.
Brilliant. The way they make the D and the R form the O in between. I was like, oh, that's so good.
I like...
I'm a graphic designer, by the way. So I'm like,
I like how the culture. So you have like the timekeeper with the cool little bell.
What did they call
drum.
him? The Time
Lord. I don't know.
No, it was like the time...
I can't remember.
It was some intense name.
Yeah, but it's super great. I loved the action scenes were intense and awesome. I loved the dialogue.
some of the choices too that Andor had to make, where he, had to kill those 2 guards, where he
harsh,
had to kill.
yeah.
But I liked that I could kind of see that pain
The
on
acting
him. It
was on point.
It wasn't like an overwhelming, like he sank to his knees and was like, "Oh, I had to kill somebody," but it hurt him
you
to kill
tell.
someone.
Man, I don't know the name of the actor, but Cassian Andor, the actor, is great. But so was everyone.
Why is it the second you say that I don't know his name?
Is it Luna? No. Is it Diego Luna?
Diego something.
It might be Diego Luna. But everybody was amazing in this show. A standout for me, Mon Mothma's story.
Yes, so let's talk about that.
Amazing.
Oh, man.
Like, her stuff, which almost doesn't even relate to Cassian, almost. Except for being a Star Wars fan, you know that eventually Mon Mothma runs the rebellion.
Yes.
And also the Luthian tie-in. So other than that, there's basically no connection. But her stuff is almost as intense as Andor's.
My favorite scene is when her and, I think his name is Tay or something, her friend, right?
Her friend, yeah, Tay.
Where they're walking through and she's like, smile. And she keeps reminding him to be like, she's like, you're not very practiced at this, are you?
Yeah, because she's so good at putting on a false face.
The Mothma may not be the Mothma that I actually am. And he's like, the things that I am part of are kind of out there. And she's like, oh, trust me. I know.
Yeah, she throws the line right back at him.
Yes.
It might not be to your taste or whatever it was.
The things that I'm part of may not be to your taste. And that's when he knew. He's like, oh, we may be actually on the same side from what I believe.
Brilliant dialogue.
But that's how good she is at what she's doing, that even her friend from childhood
doesn't know.
Couldn't tell.
Well, and you get to know Mon, which we don't know Mon Mothma's backstory.
No,
So we finally get to know who she is, her home life, her husband, her daughter, and episode after episode just breaks your heart. You're like, this poor woman who's just trying to do good in the galaxy, and her life is being torn apart.
A teenage daughter who resents her, a husband who's
just terrible.
Terrible. They were married based on Chandrillin traditions,
which was young at like 14, arranged marriage, Which
now she's being forced into for her daughter in order to get the money coverage that she needs.
It's so much more deeper than that.
It is.
Because oh man, and so that's another thing that I love about the show is you could take a moment, an episode, a scene, or a group of characters and really dive into that topic. Because even Mon Mothma, I think we could probably go on for an hour about the intricacies of how crooked and interesting her husband is, but also the fact that her daughter is
wants to be part of these traditional things. Yeah, she's in there chanting the sayings with her friends or whatever.
Right, but her mom is like, I don't really want this and I don't want this for you. But then the mother-daughter dynamic, but then that girl ending up being the aunt.
Oh yeah, so Vel, who worked with Cassian in the first couple episodes to rob that payroll of the sector or whatever, and what started with an A, something.
I don't know, but
yeah, she turned out that she was the cousin.
But then finding out that Vel's life is also just falling apart, so she's a part of the rebels, but she's fighting for love. But then the person she loves doesn't really love her, honestly.
Yeah, no, she's kind of
she's out for revenge or something. That whole thing is interesting. Finding out where Andor gets his doctrine kind of from is really interesting. That one kid
who dies.
Yeah.
Oh, man, this show. Honestly, if you're having doubts about watching this show because it's just another Star Wars show,
or feeling just watching this, you're just well, now I know the whole story. No, this story is played out so well. Even if you know it's gonna be tense, and the acting is so good. And the music is really good.
The music, oh man, it's so similar to, and I love the Bourne movies because the music does that same kind of thing. I don't
know if I'd compare it to the Bourne movies.
I don't know. I kind of do because, he's a little bit on the run. He's trying to hide who he is a little bit because he is having to lie about where he's from this whole time.
Yeah, but
anyway. But like the music just kind of gets you, kind of brings in the tense feelings as well.
It does really well. But man, all of it. I like, my mind then flashes to Mon in like the Senate, and basically how empty it is, but no one listening.
Yeah, and people are like booing her, and a couple people would be like, no, listen to her, but it's like very few.
But then the subtle drops about the Emperor taking more and more control, but then also like the inner workings of the ISB and how
the
kind
office
of
politics.
but also how feeding frenzy it is. It's like, well, if you can get up on this person, if you can get up on this person. But then also the insane zealots who also work within the Empire.
Yeah.
Because you got that one guy who's just like, they follow him, the one that Cassian kind of screws over in the beginning.
Cyril?
Yeah, Cyril.
Cereal.
Yes, Cyril.
Cyril.
Yeah, Cyril.
He does eat a lot of cereal.
He does eat a lot of cereal. Say that 10 times fast. Cyril eats a lot of cereal. Hashtag. You should do that.
Cyril eats cereal.
You should do
just
that.
Do like people who did those videos of Zemo dancing or whatever it was. Yeah. Just do 10 hours of him eating cereal.
But you see his crazy fanaticism.
Yeah.
You see how kind of quirky and awkward he is, but then you kind of see how maybe everybody in the Empire's kind of got these little quirks and how they get dehumanized and are just kind of put into pods. But then you see like his relationship with his mother and how kind of twisted and ugly that is. And like every character in this show is so good for a different reason.
Yes. Each one is believable too.
Yeah.
And that's what makes them really good.
And
what
you understand
relatability and believability.
That yes, the
Some
relatability.
of them I can't relate to because I'm like, I have never been in that situation, but I can understand you.
And these characters just so good.
Yes.
Even if you don't like even the bad ones, even if you don't like them, you're like, oh yeah, wow, oh, like it's like,
oh, what does that mean?
Yeah, and how. I would say to its benefit, how much it is not tied in to Star Wars makes it so good. You
get some name references every once in a while, and actually, for those who have watched the Clone Wars, the animated TV show, the guy who's the captain of the ship, with the mustache and everything, and he's Dedra's boss.
Yeah. And
which was unexpected. I was like, oh, you stuck around, but with them.
Well, and you see him, he is one of the captains in A New Hope.
Oh, okay.
Or captains, or whatever their title is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this show, I implore anybody who hasn't seen it to get other people to watch it. Mm-hmm. You should watch it. Watch it together. It's a great show. It is easily in my top probably 3 shows we've watched this year. Mm-hmm. Which we'll probably go over a few of our top favorite shows in some other later videos.
Top 10 because everybody does.
We've watched a lot of stuff, but like this is easily up there.
Oh yeah.
It was so good. If you haven't seen it, watch it. And if you have seen it, tell us what your favorite part is down below.
And then tell all your friends to also watch it.
Yeah. Yeah. If you like this show, give us a thumbs up because you like the show.
Yes. Oh yeah. I should probably we'll push that little button again.
Yeah, push that little button. Yeah.
And want to see more, subscribe.
And comment below. We like to talk about this stuff, and especially Andor. It was a very good one. We would like to continue the discussion down below.
There's totally going to be season 2.
There will be, and I think season 2 is its last season. Mm-hmm. And I think it's going to be a while. I think it's going to be a few years. So you got time to catch up.
Yes.
But man, it was good. It was a good ride. Do you have any more comments?
No. I mean, again, and this is like a 9.9 because I struggle to give full 10s, but that's basically a 10. So this was
it just shy of being perfect.
Yeah. And it's not like I can pick out anything specific. It's just that perfection is hard for me to rate something as. Like, like Dune, the movie, the more recent adaptation, not the old one, that's still in my head a 9.9 because I don't know if anything can ever be perfect for me, but that was darn near perfect.
Well, and also they haven't finished the story.
And they haven't finished the story.
If the second part is as good as the first, you might give it a 10.
It's probably just going to be a 10. But yeah, so go watch it. Let us know what you think.
Yeah.
Tell the world, shout it from the rooftops, share it with a galaxy far, far away, or here at home.
Yeah.
And
thanks for stopping by.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.